got off work and I was in a remarkably good mood. Hi, it's Romania Black. And because I was in a great mood, I thought, I'm going to watch TAKOPI'S Original Sin. Because here's the thing. Sometimes you get off work and you get home and you're like, I need a show to pick me up and make me feel better and make me feel good and have like a good old second wind of optimism. And sometimes I watch shows when I get off work for that reason. But I have come to find out with this show, when I'm in a good mood, that's when I need to watch it. So that I can hope that optimism balances the scales of the torturous despair that I'm going to be thrown into, because we're on episode 3. This episode will mark the halfway point of the series, and we're 2 episodes in, and last episode, Marina died. She just straight up dead. TAKOPI accidentally murdered her, and now we have to deal with the aftermath. So, last episode was a doozy, and I still do not feel comfortable about this child murder. I don't feel comfortable about it. I was thinking about it on the drive home today because I decided I was going to watch this when I got home from work. And I thought, okay, in series like Attack on Titan, in series like that, there is a heavy discussion of ethics and of, when do we defend ourselves to the point that someone could get murdered. The difference between Attack on Titan and TAKOPI'S Original Sin is that in Attack on Titan, it is a post-apocalyptic world with adults making these choices, or at least teenagers making these choices. Whereas you have, and I know you're going to point out a specific moment early on in Attack on Titan that does not follow that logic, and I know what you're thinking, and I'm with you, but just overall in Attack on Titan. Whereas in this series, we're literally looking at two 9-year-olds. It's like, so I want to talk about a few things before we dive into this episode. The other thing was, the other day I was listening, because sometimes, you're just listening to your Spotify and random playlist of music, and I've got some Broadway tunes on there, and the one song from Cats that I like, Cats the musical, yes, the abomination that was released in 2019 that I did see on New Year's Day, that did usher in COVID, I'm fully convinced. But yes, the Cats. The one song that I like from that musical is Memories. It is the best song. It's one of the best Broadway songs. It's freaking good. It's amazing. But there was a line in that musical. I was watching the music video of it on YouTube that has Ellen Page performing, and she's absolutely incredible. But the line in Memories, it says, "Touch me and you'll understand what happiness is. A new day, a new day has begun." So it's like, touch me, it's so easy to leave me. I can't sing. But anyway, so the line is, touch me and you'll understand what happiness is. Look, a new day has begun. And I happened, because I like scrolling through the comment section of videos, I saw this comment, and I'll put it up here so that you all can see it. It's from Anna Landa 2 years ago. They said, "To me, the saddest line of all in this song is when she sings, 'If you touch me, you'll understand what happiness is.' That line expresses how much suffering she has been through. Life has treated her so bad, made her suffer, extended her agony, that if you touch her, you can understand what happiness is, because no one is more unfortunate than her." And I read that comment, and it was like a light bulb went off, and I immediately thought of Shizuka and Marina. That those two, have been through so much suffering and anguish that touch them and understand what happiness is. And then you have the concept of TAKOPI, who is trying to understand why Shizuka can't be happy. And it's like, it was such a moment. I love when things in the outside world connect to anime that I'm watching, and I was like, I need to tell everybody about this in the intro. So yes, go look up Memories by Cats, from the musical Cats. Look up the Ellen Page version, it's the best one. But anyway, with that being said, as I talk to my own chappy, I've got 2 comments from episode 1 over on Patreon that I want to talk about with y'all, and also do briefly a little analysis that I've realized going into episode 3. But Luminist, for episode 1, says, "I think it's worth mentioning early. because it is obvious from the first episode to anyone who's familiar with this genre, and I think this knowledge enhances the watching experience. I am not familiar with this genre, so apologies. Takapi is a parody or deconstruction of Japanese shows for children, or at least in part. It is very consciously drawing parallels within a particular classical popular show for kids, Doraemon. Now, to be fair, I know of Doraemon because I feel like it's such a huge, like, in the zeitgeist. If you know anything about anime, you've at least seen the little blue and white mascot. So I know what Doraemon is. Have I ever watched Doraemon? No. The only thing I know about parodying Japanese children's shows is from Life with Uzumaki, like, oh my gosh, Uramichi Onisan, which is on my channel. That is parodying children's shows in Japan, and it's really, really good. But it said the whole premise behind Doraemon and shows similar to it is that a regular kid finds a new otherworldly friend, a walking blue cat robot in Doraemon's case, and that friend has cool, unique powers that allow the kid from the show to do fun stuff, to fly, to make ice cream, become a butterfly, etc. I think Takapi's original sin feels much more purposeful in all the suffering it portrays if you look at it through this lens. I don't know it for sure, but I bet the author came up with this story by thinking, what if a good-natured and friendly Doraemon had to face the dark problems of our reality that children can face everywhere, instead of the lighthearted and fun problems from kids' shows? Would he break, or would he keep trying to make things better? Would he be able to? I definitely think it is worth noting that and looking at that series as a parody of a kids' show in that perspective. The description he said in the second paragraph is basically just 80s kids shows. Kids shows from the 80s. It's like, we're going to get dark as shit, but then there's going to be a cutesy element. And that's kind of when I walked into the show, why in episode 1, I kind of started nervous laughing because I'm like, oh, I've seen the formula of cutesy thing with kid equals there's going to be some stuff go down. So I definitely agree, and I think it's worth noting. I do not know personally all the tropes of Doraemon or Japanese kids shows, but I think that it is relevant to know that the author is probably deconstructing it through this, which is fun. I like Chainsaw Man by Tatsuki Fujimoto because it is a deconstruction of shonen. Look at that. We love a deconstruction. Moomin says for episode 1, I had a nemesis in grade school who had her gang follow me around and sometimes injure me, which I hate. I'm sorry you went through that. I got so bad, my mom threatened to sue the school district if they didn't rectify the situation. I remember a teacher blaming me for what happened, saying I was a bit odd and smaller than the others. I hate that for you. That makes every fiber in my being as a teacher want to scream. So that's fun. Not really. Yeah, that stuck with me. Well, one day, our moms got together and basically made us be friends. We were made to go to each other's homes and spend time with each other supervised. It was weird. It did work, though. We stopped fighting. And that, like the whole, like I said in episode 2, that was my whole thing. I thought, okay, these two are gonna, be forced to have exposure therapy and go through that. Nope. Nope, not at all. And you have to wonder, you have to wonder. I'm still just wondering, would it have made a difference? I think it would have. I think we have to believe that it would have. The idea that Shizuka is so excited about the fact that Takapi has murdered Marina is, to me, absolutely terrifying. Because there's going to be ramifications. There's going to be repercussions. And I'm not ready to see what that is, but we're going to rip off the Band-Aid and find out. And so the last thing I want to say is, I know there are 6 episodes of this series, but all I could think about, again, after episode 2, was how angry I was. I was so mad. I was so just viscerally fuming that I thought, oh, well, we have the 5 stages of grief. Episode 1 is denial. Takapi's denial at Shizuka dying and thus trying to rectify and change that situation. Then the second stage of grief is anger, which is very epitomized in episode 2 with Marina's anger towards Shizuka and the fact that her bullying isn't work and the extremes that she starts taking, the anger that Shizuka has at Marina for getting Chappie taken away, and my anger at the lack of adult supervision in this world that is exaggerated and ridiculous. So yeah, just regular stuff. So the next stage is bargaining, which we've just had the death of Marina, so bargaining might be something that a lot of characters do in this episode. And then that would lead depression and then acceptance. Not ready for the depression stage. Nope. But then that leaves episode 6, so I don't know what that will entail, if this is even following the 5 stages of grief. Who even knows? But regardless, we have talked enough about this episode. Episode 1 is about to come on to YouTube as I record this, and episode 2 on Patreon. I have to record a little bit ahead because I'm avoiding spoilers with a series this short because I don't want anything spoiled, but also this stupid, not stupid, very helpful, this program contains depictions of suicidal behavior that may be upsetting to some viewers. If you or someone you know needs help, visit crisishelpresources.com is not encouraging. So my only hope is that last episode, the reason they showed that is because they did show some graphic imagery of TAKOPI reimagining Shizuka taking her life and thinking, okay, I don't want that to happen. So the only thing I'm hoping it ties back to is just TAKOPI thinking of stuff happening and wanting to avoid it, not actual suicide taking place. Let's not have that, shall we? That sounds like a not fun time. But anyway, I've talked enough. I've talked over 10 minutes. Thank you all so much for watching with me. Again, I was in such a good mood on my way home. I was like, what better way to celebrate than with TAKOPI'S original sin? Ah! So we're going to get that on the roll here and start and dive right in here in 3, 2, 1. And I'll see you all on the other side. Oh, why is there all this learned behavior and parents influencing their children and parents being the worst in this series? Just why? Why? No, shit's about to hit the fan. Shit is about to hit the fan. And I came off of episode 2 being like, I can't wait for episode 3. And now that we've seen the end of episode 3, I don't want to watch episode 4. Because shit's gonna hit the fan. Shit is gonna hit the fan, essentially. So TAKOPI, we're gonna put up here, old TAKOPI has realized the sins, the errors of their ways. And TAKOPI realized what we all talked about last week, in that Marina did not need to die. Marina, her actions were influenced by her family, by her circumstance. She did not need to die. As Azuma said at the beginning of this episode, there was another way. Would that way have been easy? God, no. Would that way have been feasible? Probably not. But was there a way? Yep, it was there. It's always there. But all the ways are there. So TAKOPI has realized the horrible thing that has happened, has realized that Marina is gone and that they are the result, the cause, and now the result is that this life has been taken. And so as TAKOPI realizes the errors of its ways, that's when they've discovered the body. So that's problematic. And TAKOPI is this alien that's essentially killed a human. And these 2 kids are in the crossfire potentially for this crime. What are we gonna do? So that's the question. So this episode is called TAKOPI'S Confession, which I think ties to the end of the episode where they confess that they've done something horrible. They've killed Marina, and Marina is gone now, and it should have ended differently. What can we do to rectify it? What can we do? So yeah, the result, and now just as the body is found, I mean, at this point, the parents are going to find out. So it's a matter of time and a question of what's going to happen next. And I am dreading next episode. With this episode, if this episode is the bargaining phase, next episode is depression. I don't want to do depression. Nope, I don't want to do that. Nope. Don't want to go there. I'm going to need to be in a mood to watch the episode. I'm going to need to be in a very big mood to watch episode 4, and I'm not ready for that. So let's avoid talking about it. Let's go back to the beginning of this episode. So Azuma following them into the woods does not surprise me because we've set up over the 2 episodes prior that Azuma cares for Shizuka, has kind of a crush on Shizuka, wants to be nice to her, and he follows her to try to figure out what's going on because he was worried about her, and Azuma gets involved. So we're going to put Azuma up here and talk about him. We're also going to put Shizuka down here. And then we're going to put old, I'm trying to get to where you all can see it the best. We're going to put Marina's parents. Marina's parents down here is what we're going to put them right there. Okay, we've got our little triangle. This OP is so deceptive because it shows the 3 of them together. I mean, besides the Marina and Shizuka with the ribbon tying them together, they literally have a red string of fate between them. I just hope it does not lead to Shizuka's fate being similar to Marina's, but they do have a red string of fate in the OP literally together. But you have Azuma and his brother and his mom and everything, but that OP was so deceptive because with Takapi posing as Marina this episode, which I don't think he will in the future. I think he's going to quit that, not only because the body's been found, but he's realized how wrong that is. But what a deceiving OP, making us think. I don't know if the Dog of Saturn's going to have anything to do with all of this or what we're going to get, if that ties to Chappie or not. So Azuma followed. And Azuma's already like, oh my god, because the flower is gone. So Takapi is visible to Azuma, and he's like, it can talk. And then he sees, I think it's important to recognize that he sees how badly Shizuka looks, but then he sees Marina's body. And Azuma's reaction to this dead body is what the reaction should be. That there's this dead body. She's been killed. She's literally staying there in rigor mortis. And Shizuka says Takapi's magic killed Marina. No, Takapi's alien-like brute force caused the camera to inflict blunt force trauma, which killed Marina. So I think it's important to recognize that Shizuka is, and this is a learned behavior, and I don't know if we can tie it to the parents, or if it's just the fact that Shizuka is not wanting to admit that she's killed someone or is involved in the death of someone, is that she has kind of scapegoated it as magic. So it's saying that it's magic that killed Marina. So just like, Azuma at first says, he basically tells Shizuka saying, you are going to go to prison for this. Like, he's like, I know what the penalty is. You're going to get sent to a juvenile detention center for it. And then you most definitely cannot see Chappie, which the fact that Shizuka doesn't care about going to the juvenile detention facility because her life is so shit says a lot. But the fact that what gets her, it's not going to the juvenile detention facility because she's like, but it's the fact that she can't see Chappie. The whole point was, it's the fact that Chappie is this driving force. Seeing Chappie is the driving force. Now, is Chappie still alive and with the dad? Did the mom lie and the dog's dead? I won't be surprised either way. Won't be surprised either way. But she basically is saying it was magic that killed Marina Chan to give the blame to something that is not herself or Takapi. And she's like, it wasn't magic. It was a happy gadget. And I mean, it's got blood all over it, right? Azuma's reaction, looking absolutely mortified at not only a talking alien, but also the fact that Shizuka and said talking alien are talking about murder so casually in front of the body of their dead classmate, is very appropriate. I feel bad for Shizuka in all of this. I also feel bad for Azuma, because Azuma walking into this scenario as an outsider and now is completely implicated into it is terrifying. And he has the very appropriate reaction of being like, this isn't normal. This is messed up. This is not, we should not be so casual about this. Right? He's like, I'm a happy-in. And she's like, you said, what was it again? She said, happy fruits are good there. Like, Shizuka is just not even acknowledging the murder. And there are parts of Shizuka in this episode that make me upset because it's clearly like a learned behavior and she's gotten it from her mom. It's a combination of from her mom and her own trauma has just become this cocktail of dissonance to separate her from the actual reality of the situation. Like, she is disassociating so hard from the murder of Marina because she is basically PTSD. In a way, she's in, like, we can't talk about the murder. Let's not think about it. Because once we start thinking about it, we realize the horror of what's happened. So we're going to distance ourselves from that by all means possible, even though there's a dead body right in front of you. Like, that's just absolutely crazy. So she is trying to distance from the reality of what's happened. And we talked last episode, what was happening to her was absolutely heartbreaking. And Shizuka did not deserve to go through that. But what is done is done. Marina's dead. We can't bring her back unless we took her to Happy Inn and use the clock. So there's this clock that apparently exists. We're going to put it over here that can control time. Now, something that is rather interesting in all of this is the fact that Takapi conveniently can't remember why he can't go back or why it can't go back to Happy Inn. Takapi knows that they cannot go back, but they can't remember why. Now, the OP suggested that their plane blew up out of the sky, but whether that's true or Takapi just can't remember, we don't know. But yeah, they're just like, Azuma's like, this is messed up. What has happened? He's like, no. And Shizuka's just like, the fact that Shizuka has no reaction, she's just like, what? She's like, what's messed up? And he's like, what is? I don't understand why you don't get it. He's like, why would you kill her? There had to be another way. And Shizuka sounds like she's about to say what Marina-chan did to her. Now, you know, looking at Shizuka right now in this frame, she has a giant bruise on her face and scratches and dirt all over her. An adult would look at this situation and be like, oh, well, Marina probably abused Shizuka, and I'm surprised that Shizuka didn't just say it was self-defense. I'm surprised she didn't say Marina tried to kill me and it was self-defense. I'm surprised she didn't just come out and say that from the start. But I think that the series has shown Shizuka's character as being built up as this person that doesn't defend themselves. She never defends herself. She takes all of this pain and trauma head on, never complains about it, never defends or raises her fist to defend herself like Takapi does in the scene with the mom, which is what you should do. Takapi does what you're supposed to do. Shizuka does not do that. And I think it's just because Shizuka had just given up on life, thought it was hopeless, didn't see a reason to like put up a fight against it. And so, you know, she didn't get out to Azuma about it quick enough. And he's like, and why were you just going to leave her here? Which, yeah, why were you just going to leave her there? Like, he's like, that's a terrible idea. But she's just not in the mindset to think about that. He's like, do you realize it'll cause problems? And Shizuka kind of takes that moment to be kind of upset because someone is calling her out on it. I don't think anyone's ever called her out in a rational way like Azuma does, where she's just like, because her mom doesn't give a shit. Her mom doesn't care. And so nobody else in her life cares what she does or the ramifications of her actions. And Azuma's actually calling her out in a very civilized way. Like, why didn't you think this through? And she doesn't know what to do about it. So you can see that there's guilt on her face of, look, yeah, she's like, how do I explain all of the bullying and assault on me in a way that makes this justified? You know, and Takapi is like, hey, Azuma, you're being scary. Takapi is scary. Takapi is terrifying. By the way, this little alien, I'm glad that Takapi has the realization at the end of this episode that what they did was wrong and that they took a life that they shouldn't have. Because at the beginning of this episode, I was like, oh, TAKOPI is like, you're being scary, Azuma. Why are you making Shizuka mad, not making her smile? I'm like, is TAKOPI gonna kill Azuma? I was getting a little worried for a hot second. He's like, you should be happier. And Azuma's like, listen, a person's dead. Azuma makes a really good point here. I was like on Azuma's page. He's like, watch how you talk. Do you think this is funny? And TAKOPI's like, oh, And he tries to say he's sorry. He's like, just be quiet. I liked how calm Azuma was throughout all this. I really like his character a lot. He's like, magic. And then Shizuka's like, well, magic's what killed Marina. What can I do about it? And he's like, oh, it wasn't magic. It was the camera with blood all over it. So Azuma knows. He knows the culprit. He knows the weapon. What he doesn't know is the alibi, the reason. He doesn't know the reasoning, why it happened. Which I feel as if Azuma should kind of get an idea or have an idea because he's watched her get bullied by Marina and her friends. So he should have a reason. But what Azuma does not know that we, the audience, knows is the extent to which this bullying has been going on. He also doesn't know Marina's motivation as to why she's doing it, because Marina can't speak for herself, because Marina is dead. She can't speak up. She can't justify or say why she did things, not that she would, but there's no option, right? She's dead. And Shizuka is saying, well, it was magic. Shizuka just does not want to take the blame because she realizes how serious this is. Even if it was, murder is still murder. And he's like, you'll probably get sent to a juvenile facility. And that doesn't hit Shizuka as hard as you think it would. And he's like, nobody will believe you if you blame it on an alien. Well, I don't know about that. And he's like, I won't be. She's like, well, I won't be able to see Chappie then. Girl is so broken that she's not worried about what her mom's reality will be from this. She don't care. And why should she? The mom doesn't care. She's not concerned about herself because she has no sense of self-worth. What she's worried about is the dog that's probably already dead. And it's heartbreaking. It's so sad. It's horrible. A book I read said once turning yourself in, you could get a lighter sentence. You should go to the police now. And Azuma's a good kid. And he's like, look, you should just go. I like that. I'm guessing the glasses he wears, I can't tell if they're fake glasses that he just wears to try to make himself seem like he's trying to be smarter, or if he actually needs them and he took them off for this scene. I don't know for sure. And that's when she says, Azuma-kun, isn't there another way? And he's like, another way? She's like, besides turning myself in, I don't read any books, but you look like you know a lot. And she plays on the fact that he likes her. Now, does Shizuka know that Azuma likes her? I don't think so. But Azuma does have a crush on Shizuka. And there's more to it than just the crush. We'll get into that. But he does have a crush on her. And she's like, you look like you're a smart kid. And he's like, well, sometimes other people take the fall in novels, And he's like, but novels are fiction. I guess the most common way is covering up your crime. That's the go-to solution. I don't know. These kids are 9 years old, so they've not watched any true crime documentaries. You can't get away with murder. I'm sorry. Even if it's 30 years later, at some point, you're going to get caught. And most people that try to cover up in their haste like these two do, they gonna get caught. And are we surprised a 9-year-old got caught? No. No. Not at all. And she said, I see. And she puts the clover on the ground. I like the little... And none of it is... It's the one 4-leaf clover out of all the 3-leaf clovers. The one 4-leaf clover she finds, the lucky clover. She's like, I guess I'll do that then. And he's like, yeah, I like that it's idea of her, like, her fingering around the clover is like her testing her luck. And he looks to her and says, what? And she says, I don't want to go to a juvenile facility, so I'll just cover up the crime. And How do you think I should do it? And he's like, well, that's also a crime. Like, he knows them covering it up is a crime in addition. Besides, there's no way just us kids. And she's like, we'll use TAKOPI'S magic. And here's the thing. So she's like, we'll just use the magic to cover everything up. And that'll work. And Azuma knows it won't. Azuma's like, this is all a horribly bad idea. Azuma is a smart kid, which is something that is going to get talked about in this episode. Azuma is smart. But his mother, because she is a member of the worst parent of the year club, along with every parent so far in this village where they live at, is convincing him all but that. She's like, so you should come up with a good way to hide all the evidence, Azuma-kun. She's like, you're smart. And he's like, oh, well, there's no way I could do that. And she's like, hey. And that's when he goes back to seeing his mom. Mainly the mom. We don't see the dad at all. But the mom saying, why can't you do it? So Azuma has a traumatic side to him. And that is the idea of not measuring up to his big bro's standards. Or there's another way of doing it. We'll look at it as well, but right now it's not measuring up to the big brother standards. Being like, you're not good enough, you're not smart enough. Why can't you do it? She's like, I'll get caught in no time if it's just me and TAKOPI. So I want you to help me, Azuma-kun. Because she's like, you're smart, so you can help me. I don't like this side of Shizuka. I don't like this side of Shizuka at all, because what it feels on the surface is her using Azuma and sort of taking advantage of his crush on her. Now, there is a distinction here, and I think we should make this very clear. When she has the sparkly eyes and everything around Azuma, that's Azuma's vision of her. And Azuma playing with the trope of the girl being like, but won't you help me and save me and be my savior and like help me out, please? I'd really appreciate it, mister. Like, that's his vision of her. Does she know he has a crush on her? No. I think she's just like, hey, you're the first person to give me the time of day outside this girl that's tried to beat me up every week. You're smart. Help me figure this out and help me. And also kind of like, you're involved too now. So what could it hurt you to help me? Sort of thing. She's like, I don't have any friends and I can't ask my mom for help. She's like, you're literally the only person that can help me right now. I have no one else. And then she grabs his hand. She's like, Azuma-kun. And then I like that her hand becomes the pancakes. We're going to talk about the pancakes. Your big brother managed it. And she says, please. And she's like, with the sparkles, you're all I have. And from Shizuka's perspective, I hate the idea that she implicates him. But she's, what other learned behaviors could she fall back on? Not much. And Azuma, who is so desperate for someone to acknowledge him and give him praise, this is like the first time, and she's like, he is so desperate to be needed and wanted or validated. Because he doesn't get that at home. And so, as much as he is telling himself, this is murder, if you try to cover it up, it's also a crime. I'm going to be implicated and guilt by association with you and be part of this. Every logic in his brain is saying that's a terrible idea. But the moment this girl he has a crush on is like, you're all I have and you're my savior and I kind of need you to help me get out of this mess. That wall, when she says, please help me, comes crumbling down. And he is completely love-struck. And he's like, I can do it. And then TAKOPI'S like, well, that's fun. What's a juvenile facility? And he's like, octopus. He's like, let's go through all your gadgets. So, yeah, I mean, People do crazy things for love. Love makes fools of us all. Right? I feel, because I don't think that Shizuka, I could see somebody saying that Shizuka is being like her mom and being this like femme fatale, and that's where she got it from, is her mom. And maybe that is the case. I personally, at first I was afraid of that, but as the episode went on, I was like, no, I just think that's the lens he's viewing her from, because he has a crush on her and that's how he views what she's saying to him. But if you view it from Shizuka's perspective, she's just like, I got nobody else. You're all I got. And it just happens to be that he romantically likes her. But I could see where somebody would try to make the connection between her and the mom. So he's like, you've got all this useless junk. And then the memory box. He's like, what is this one? I also like that even though Azuma is a good kid and he seems very sweet, the expressions that they give him in this episode are kind of like, he has a lot of sour expressions. He's very human. He has flaws, just like every other character in this show. He is a sweet character, and I love him and relate to him in a lot of ways. Not the younger sibling thing. I'm the eldest sibling in my family. But there's a lot of him that's flawed and kind of like the veneer cracks. Because in the first 2 episodes, he seemed like the sweet, innocent kid. And now you're like, oh no, there's some cracks underneath the surface, which is good to see. He's like, that's a memory box. And he's like, I'm not asking for the name. He's like, it can preserve anything you place inside of it, like a pretty leaf, for example. And they make it big enough where they can put her inside of it. And they take a piece of her hair where it's like, well, the octopus can hide the camera, the murder weapon on itself. I like that Shizuka's at least calling it the murder weapon, because that's literally what it is. He's like, are you sure you can pull this off? The transformation palette lets you look exactly like someone else. So Azuma's like, I'm going to go get a shovel. And he's like, be careful not to give yourself away to her family or it'll ruin everything. And then TAKOPI'S like, are we sure we want to do this? The whole thing about pretending to be Marina. And you can tell, and about how we're going to hide her. Like, TAKOPI'S sitting there saying, hey, remember how we're committing a crime? Remember how we murdered someone? Remember how we're doing all this bad stuff? Should we really be doing this? And I like Azuma gets tensed up. He's like, I've committed. Y'all got me to commit to this, and now you're questioning it? He's like, and how we're going to hide her. Are you sure? And then it's like, TAKOPI, you'll get caught if you talk like that. These murder children, the fact that they were just like, nope, we're complicit in this now. I'm like, and it's like, I don't want them to suffer anymore, but the lesson that they're learning from this is like, we'll just cover up the crime. It's fine. And it's also like, we have this magical alien. As long as we have TAKOPI, everything's great. Which again, if we're deconstructing the children's stories and what the lessons that you learn from them, it's like if Sesame Street was like, actually, if you don't like someone, just run them over. Like, it'd be basically like if Sesame Street gave you that kind of advice, right? Or if Mr. Rogers was like, well, if you don't get along with somebody, completely cut them out of out of your lives and never speak to them again. Which, that advice, depending on your situation, might actually be helpful, but it depends on the situation. So it definitely is a deconstruction of the children's shows and the lessons learned. The fact that TAKOPI is just happily digging with the bare hands of Marina to bury herself. The fact that Azuma dug the grave himself to bury it in. I mean, I'm not surprised that they didn't dig the grave big enough to bury her, because she looks like freaking Snow White in there. I'm not surprised they didn't dig the grave big enough, because, you know, it's a 9-year-old doing it. I was worried about that because, you know, animals and stuff dig up graves all the time if you don't do it properly. So, yeah. And then they go back. I like Azuma doing the glasses thing, too. So the Kirarazaka residence. She's like, I'll do my best to impersonate Marina-chan. Let's be cheerful just like Marina-chan, who was never cheerful. I've got this. I loved the perspective of going into the house and it's quiet and the lights are out and you see it from her perspective as she goes into the kitchen and she opens up the door, and then the moment she opens up the door, the dad is cursing, what the F are these tassels for? And he knocks the food and the drink to the ground. And she's like, the curtains, I'm going to put them on the curtains. And Takapi's just like, aha, as they walk into this trauma that is being dumped upon them by their shitty parents. I'm going to put them on the curtains. I hate that the family has gotten to this point. They just needed to divorce and leave a while ago. And just call it a day. Because the dad is being physically and verbally abusive. The way he's standing above the table with his fist out and he's damaged the goods. The way she's sitting there. Like they've just physically been... like he's being physically abusive to her and verbally abusive to her. She doesn't have anybody to take this anger and aggression out on, so she does it to Marina, and Marina passes the buck on to somebody else. It's this horrible cycle. I hate it here. I hate both of them. I hate her for passing it on to Marina, but I think I hate him even more because just don't be that way. Why? What did the tassels and the curtains have to do with anything? Like this guy that's just committing domestic abuse and being the worst. And then he says, how dare you spend my money on useless junk? And he calls her a parasite, which is what Marina called Shizuka. So it wasn't all coming from the mom. It was coming from the dad too. It's awful. And the fact that this horrifyingly bad marriage that's horribly abusive to their only child is surrounded in a kitchen by photos of them all together as a family acting happy is disgusting and so sad. And it makes you emotional. It really does. Because it's like, if those times were actually happy, why aren't you looking to that? Why aren't you looking to everything? It's like you can't see the forest for the trees. And she comes in there and talks about the nightclub. And he's like, it's my money. I'll use it however I like. This is why I'm single, y'all. This is why I'm single, y'all. Oh, but why? And then he throws the tassel and it clocks her in the nose. And the mom's like, what if it caught her in the eye? What if it left a scar on her face? And he's like, she's fine. She's not hurt. Now, the mom saying Marina has every right to sue you. I'm like, oh, those parents. And he's like, cut it out with the victim act. You're wasting my time. I hate it. He's like, you don't get that because you never worked a day. Also, for the record, Mr. Manosphere husband here, I just want to like take my finger and flick as hard as Takapi clocked the camera into Marina's face to him. Because I'm like, first of all, that notion that women that are stay-at-home moms never worked a day in their life makes me want to give the biggest middle finger to this dad character. Because, okay, let's have you stay home for a day with your children, do all of that business, taking care of them, and do all the preparation for your spouse, clean your house, get your kid ready, make sure everything's in order, and then not get paid for it, and then come back and say you never did work a day in your life. And there are lots of dads that stay at home and do what the moms do in other relationships. There are lots of situations like that, but I cannot stand. Like, I could not personally be a stay-at-home mom. I don't think I have it in me. I don't think I have it in me. And I'm very self-aware of that. But I have so much respect for stay-at-home moms who don't get paid doing all that they do, because that is just BS. At least in America, they don't get paid. And paid maternity leave, that doesn't exist in the US. So it's like, that line just, it cracks under the surface where I just want to give him the biggest FU in that moment. She's like, how can you say that? I work hard for you and Marina. Yeah, she does. And that's so like, how could you say that? Meanwhile, Takapi's like, wow, Marina's parents sure like to talk a lot. They sure love each other. Takapi, I'm like, is Takapi a defect alien? Are we gonna find out? Is this gonna transform into a horror anime where we find out that Takapi is actually the rejected Happien? That they were like, get it out of here, and sent it away, just being like, you can't stay in Happien because you don't got this right. Yeah. Oh my god. And he's like, stop being patronizing. I'm like, well, you're doing pot calling the kettle black. Pot calling the kettle black. And so like, let's go look for Chappie. And he's like, no, I said we can't go look for him right now. Like, Azuma's sitting here like, look, we can't just... Also seeing Marina with Takapi's face is disturbing. Again, lots of disturbing things happening in this episode. But Azuma's like, no, we can't just go look for him. We have to have a plan. You know, you can't just go to Tokyo by yourself. Which, to be fair, Tokyo, I know a lot of kids in different stories have gone through Tokyo, but they probably didn't live as far away as these three do to Tokyo. Not to mention, it requires money, and unlike anime I've seen where the parents have given the kids that money, Azuma and Shizuka's family do not seem keen to give them the allowance to go to Tokyo. So that's just not going to work. No, you got to bring it up here. Barry's trying to get me to throw this. And we should wait until this octopus is used to Marina's home. I like that Azuma acknowledges that he doesn't call him Takapi, he calls him this octopus, which I'm sure it's like the same name. And then Takapi's like, what's a divorce mediation? I'm like, oh, well, divorce mediation is what those two should have done about a year ago. In all honesty, I did some certification classes for mediation, and we did divorce mediation, and it would have benefited a long time ago. Too little, too late, right? Which is another really sad part. We buried the body, so it should be fine. Nope. We should come up with a good plan. I like that it says Octopus is the brand of the top secret summer planning notebook. So Naoki Azuma is here's class year 4, class 1. Right? So forth, he's like, is that okay? So he pulls open the notebook. He's like, we'll make our move during summer break. When they have time off of school. Yep. We'll do daily brainstorming sessions until then. And he's like, is that okay? And she's like, sure. And he's like, good. Okay. And he puts the glasses on as they start thinking what to do. He's like, I don't have time for this. I like the praying mantis on top of Takapi's head, which of all animals, a praying mantis that, you know, kills its lover and decapitates it, you know. What fun bugs we're doing in this series, right? I have to go home and study. And so he's like, it's rare to see you playing outside. So I think something else to note about Azuma is that he is always studying to try and catch up to his brother and get his parents' approval, and thus he's not social with hardly anyone, which, again, because of that, probably was easier to go along with this entire ordeal because, you know, didn't think rationally through it. And he's like, are these your friends from class? So Azuma's brother, like, they have the same eyes, but his brother has the bleached hair. Junya. He's like, oh, you don't call me Big Bro anymore. And it's like, oh, you're Azuma-kun's brother. He's like, yeah, I don't know why Takapi is like smitten with Junya, because it's like, you're an octopus. He's like, you're home early. And I like that. What is Shizuka going? Is Shizuka going after the praying mantis? I think so. Shizuka's like not even paying attention to this conversation. He's like, I'm off to work now. And he's like, get mom to chill out for me, yeah. I think that makes it very sad because I don't think the older brother does not seem privy to the abuse that's going on to the younger brother. He doesn't seem like he knows what's going on because there's enough of an age gap between them where it seems like he's not around the younger brother a lot, so he misses out on that, which it makes me kind of upset that the brother's not noticing this, but if he's not there, and we don't know the full story either, right? And Azuma's like, sure. And Azuma is too nice to say anything about it, right? These kids don't say anything because where's the support, right? Junya doesn't really need his part-time job. He gets his allowance as he wants. Here's the thing that I don't even know if Azuma realizes. There is a very high chance, based on the mom's behavior, maybe not, I could be wrong, but there's a high chance that the mom has been abusive towards Junya, and Junya going to work is his way of getting out of the house and getting away from her. The problem with that is, if that is the case, there's two ways of looking at it. On the one hand, if Junya is oblivious to his brother's abuse from the mom, and he just is getting the job to pay for the ring that's for the girlfriend that he's getting engaged to, that the mom is probably, she seems like one of those boy moms that has a weird, it's like the ones you see on TikTok where they have a weird crush on their kid and you're like, that's not right. But, you know, he's like trying to pay off the ring for the girlfriend, and that's why he works. And Azuma just can't comprehend that he's doing it for the girlfriend. If that's the case, I'm a little more forgiving of the brother, that he doesn't know what's going on, because, you know, sometimes abuse happens in plain sight. Sometimes abuse happens and you don't even realize it, even if it's in your own home. You know? So if that is the case, I get it. But on the other hand, if Junya was abused by the mom himself, and he's using the job as a means of getting away from the home, and he's being complicit in what's happening with his younger brother, or is naively thinking his younger brother isn't getting abused the same way he does or was, if that is the case in option B, I don't feel as sympathetic towards the brother. But I'm more inclined to believe the first option, that he's just trying to get extra money to pay off the ring and that he's trying to get out of the house with. So I don't know. He's like, all he does is worry our mom. And Azuma, literally, I thought he was going to break the glasses in half when he was talking to them. He bought that stupid looking ring with his own money. All he has to do is study. Everyone's pinning their hopes on him. So that might also be a source of the mom's frustration, if they are pinning all their hopes on the brother, but the brother's going to get married to this girl and they think that's going to like ruin his chances of going to like an Ivy League uni or something like that. He's like, and they're like, Azuma. They kind of snap him out. And then Shizuka says, well, then you should take the ring. Which is not good advice. It's like, I bet he'll be so shocked he'll quit his part-time job. Which is not exactly what would happen at all. No. I'm glad he didn't take the ring, because I'm like, Shizuka's advice is like the worst advice ever. It's like, no, the worst advice. If you took the ring, it would just cause problems for you and for your brother and for everyone. So that was terrible advice, and I'm mad that Shizuka gave him that advice. It sounds like something that her mom would have suggested happen, and she's just sponging it from the mom. And he's like, no, that's not how it works. Again, besides that's stealing. But then he looks at her, and she says, I think you can do it, Azuma-kun. Now, again, he puts the sparkles, the pink sparkles, around her whenever she gives him the praise of, I believe you can do it. I believe that you have it in you. Any type of positive reinforcement. Azuma-kun's like, oh, awesome. Which is also, in side note, terrifying. Because if you notice, when she looks at him, she's not really giving him doughy. I mean, you could maybe interpret it that way. I don't interpret it as she's giving him doughy femme fatale eyes, being like, you can do it, Azuma-kun. Because what does she get out of him taking the ring and not getting the allowance? Like, that doesn't help them get chappy. So I don't think there was motivation of her trying to seduce Azuma to make him do things. But what I think is that he is so reactive to any positive reinforcement that he views her saying you can do it as getting all the sparkles and hearts, which, by the way, is not healthy or sustainable for a relationship if you're looking at it through those glasses and the other party is not on the same wavelength as you. But so I can't really ship these two together because the ship is built on some rocky ground. But anyway, their house, also, what is up with their house? They going back to their house because he's all like in love mode. Their house looks, oh, it's like an apartment. Maybe, possibly, looks very industrial. So he goes and tries to sneak into the brother's room while he goes and gets a bath. And he's like, what are we going to steal again? He's like, the ring. And they're like, if things go wrong, just use TAKOPI'S magic. I can't believe I brought this thing home. Yeah, him viewing TAKOPI as just like an alien that's not, you know. He's like, Junya only takes his ring off when he takes a bath. He's like, let's go into his room. And then his room just looks like an ordinary teenage boy's room, right? He sees the ring on the little thing, on the little pad. And he says, let's take it. And then he remembers what his brother said. Check it out. I bought them matching rings with my girlfriend. Which I think does bear a little bit of sadness and kind of remorse on Azuma's part, because Azuma likes Shizuka. So, you know, the fact that his brother got this ring for him and his girlfriend, and here Azuma's doing it in what Azuma believes is at the whim of his wants-to-be girlfriend, is like, I think that makes him hesitate a little bit. He's like, you gotta buy these things with your own money, you know. Which is also why he's got the job. So he can pay it off. Why is he acting like a normal person when the reality is he can have anything he wants? That's the part that makes me so mad at the mom, because the mom has made Azuma believe that his brother gets everything, that his brother has the world handed to him, when we see as adults the reality. No, the brother's working towards that ring. The mom clearly doesn't want the brother to have the ring because she doesn't want him and the girlfriend to go away and leave the mom. Like, that's made clear in this. But she is projecting her fear of him leaving onto her son, being like, well, you need to get to his level. Why aren't you measuring up as well? She's literally like just deconstructing and traumatizing Azuma to where he thinks he's not good enough, potentially good enough to leave. Like, he's going to be under the mom's thumb for as long as she can hold him there. And the idea of he just wants a stack of damn pancakes. He's a 9-year-old. That's all he wants. I've been wearing that forever, haven't you? Next payday. Oh, because he says, oh, you've been wearing that forever. Because it's like the brother says, next payday, and then the mom starts to, yeah. Oh, it's the girlfriend. The girlfriend's calling. So the brother doesn't seem like a bad guy. It seems like he's trying to like help Azuma out, but he seems unaware of the trauma that Azuma's going through, and Azuma won't confess because he doesn't want to make him like life difficult for himself, which you can't blame him. So they dropped all of the gadgets in the brother's room. So are they going to be able to get it back from the brother? I don't know. Also, the idea that the wings didn't work, I was really going to be honest with y'all. I thought for a second Azuma was going to die and fall to his death. I really thought in this episode, I'm like, they're going to kill him. And then what will Shizuka do? There'll be 2 bodies. It's a horror. This is a horror anime. It's a murder spree. But that didn't happen. Instead, TAKOPI kind of saved him, and they managed to just crash to the ground. And of course, TAKOPI's like, oh, Azuma, are you okay? And Azuma's like, no. I think Azuma feels not only the scariness of the fact that he could have just died then, but also the fact that he feels guilt for trying to sabotage his brother, who really hasn't done anything wrong that we know of at this time, except maybe not noticing the trauma his brother's going through. He's like, we couldn't get the ring. And then the mom says, you're going to get a penalty then. Notice in the entire scenes with the mom and the flashback, the dad's never there, the brother's never there. So they may not know this is even going on, which is horrifying, honestly. And the mom looks a lot like Azuma. She's like, no pancakes for you. Your big bro always got 100%. You're a big boy, aren't you? And so the first time she took the pancakes away because he didn't get a good enough score on the test. And instead of, I don't know, helping him figure out what he did wrong like a freaking parent should, she was just like, well, your brother got it all right. Like making that comparison, like making comparisons like that is only going to make Azuma hate his brother, because he can't, it's not the same. I feel very fortunate that I have a brother and not a sister. Very fortunate, because I hear all the time and see all the time siblings of the same sex getting compared. I knew a girl in high school that the eldest sibling was a star athlete. She was valedictorian. She had all these prospects and scholarship opportunities, and she was this golden child. And her sister, who was 2 years younger than her, could not do anything right. And I literally watched a very similar situation with Azuma and his brother, where the older sibling was put on this pedestal, and the younger sibling could never measure up and was never as good. And it was heartbreaking to watch growing up with someone like that. It just was. Like, she tried to do the same sports as the sister, wasn't as good. She wasn't as good academically. She wasn't as talented. She wasn't as conventionally pretty. It was just so frustrating to watch. And luckily, my brother and I are very different. But luckily, my parents never pushed my brother to meet up to my expectations, because I'm very, like, classic firstborn child. Like, you're going to get A's on everything. You're going to do this and that. My brother, like, skated by us with, like, B's and C's in high school. My parents were, and I would get mad because I'm like, oh, you're not going to hold him up to the same standard? And they're like, no. It's like, because my parents were like, your brother can do manual labor. You, not so much. And I was like, so anyway, I think they knew that we were just very different people. So I was fortunate enough to not ever be compared to my brother. But I hate that Azuma felt the need to compete with his brother and try to measure up to that. And then he doesn't do as good. And the fact that the mom kept holding the pancakes away as this, like, and he got a 95 on the test. Like, it wasn't that bad of a test score. And she's like, you can't have it. It makes me mad. And when she said I made them specially for you, I was like, oh, F this mom too, because she's just awful as well. I feel like if you want to show a group of parents, like, here's what we don't do as parents, because this is how you traumatize your children. And I know there are exaggerations for the sake of the anime, but the sad part is that there are parents like this that do exist and do this shit on the daily. And then they wonder why their kids are messed up. And I'm like, it just blows my mind. And he's like, I'm sorry, I'll do better next time. And what does she say here? I'm trying to get this away. Because what does she say there? I'm trying to go back the thing. Because he says, I'm sorry, I'll do better next time. And she says, I've been thinking, maybe we're just wasting our time. That is horrifying for a parent to say to a kid that they're wasting their time. Like, to make Azuma feel so belittled and to make him feel like he has no value if he cannot perform academically the same as his brother. That is just, like, that would be crushing. He's like, no matter how hard we try, or she says, no matter how hard we try, you always fail. And then he's like, wait. And he's just like, the abuse, like, it's not physical in that family like it is with Marina and Shizuka, but it is still just as psychologically damaging in so many ways. And he's walking back expecting, and he's like, please wait. He walks back without, the ring, and he's like, please don't give up on me yet. He's fully expecting for Shizuka to act the same way as the mom. And when he doesn't have the ring and he doesn't show up having succeeded in his mission, he is expecting her to be like, oh, well, you weren't worth my time. I don't know why I asked you to help me. This isn't going to work out. He's fully expecting her to just abandon him like his mother has done. And then, Takapi has little bandages on his face. She looks back and she sees him and she kind of like laughs at him. And she's like, what happened to you two? Why do you look like such a mess? And Takapi, she's like, yeah, you guys look a mess. And her just laughing, like, the moment his shoulders just, like, all that weight drops. And I don't blame him for having a crush on her because she's like the first person he's encountered that he's close to that doesn't hold him up to the standard of his brother and to this academic pressure. The fact that he failed, she's like, oh, whatever. You guys look silly. Haha. And just the fact that she's the first person to be that way around him. And then he just lets all that emotion out and his ears getting red, like feeling shame for feeling that way, but also having all this emotion pinned up inside. And Shizuka's just like, what's with you? So then we get the montage of TAKOPI'S Marina feeding Shizuka and being all chummy and everybody being shocked at school. And then Azuma's getting all these books. What kind of books are we getting, pray tell? I can't read Japanese, but they look like about travel and about how to get to places. I do agree with TAKOPI smelling the old books. And then they all come back. TAKOPI's hanging out with Shizuka. Azuma's trying to figure things out. Shizuka's just drawing. Here's the thing. The thing about it is that frustrates me with Shizuka a little bit, and she can't really help it, but Shizuka is not really putting any work into the plan, which, again, to Shizuka's credit, she has said, she's like, I'm not smart enough to plan this all out. I don't have any informational literacy, things like that. The only reason she was getting problems right in class was because TAKOPI was feeding her the answer. So I get that. And you can see that her goal, like Chappie is the giant dog that's taking up the majority of the back of the notepad, and it shows her with the dog. She's not really considering Azuma in this equation. She's just kind of using him to get to Chappie, and she's like, you'll help me, right? Which, again, you can't blame her entirely and get mad at her entirely because she's never had someone help her before. So the idea of collaboration is lost upon her. And if we recall, every time she's tried to collaborate or talk with Marina, she ends up getting abused. So it's almost like, ironically, this Pavlovian response where she just stays away from everybody and is just like, here, you do the work. I don't want to get hurt. Meanwhile, Azuma is fueled by the fact that someone's actually giving him positive reinforcement for the first time in his life, and he feels needed. So he has his notebook, things to pack, food, lunchbox, places to stay, hotel, money, allowance, and then he has Shizuka and the octopus on there. And TAKOPI is just looking between them as they're mapping things out. And yeah, and Azuma just kind of looks at her drawings like, oh, that's what we're doing? Again, do I think that their relationship long-term would be healthy? Well, hell, I don't know. They might be in a jail cell together. Who knows? But do I think that overall they're, and I feel like I kind of like that about this series, because a lot of times in series, there's the childhood friend trope of we're going to end up together when we're older because of this experience we had when we were kids sort of thing, and this series kind of tears that apart and says they're really only friends because of convenience and mutual human decency. It's like literally the only reason that they're friends. Is there any long-term stability later on when they're adults with this? Hell, probably not. So it's like it's hard to even ship them when this is the situation. And Azuma is like trying to like talk about, here's all these plans we've got going on, and meanwhile Shizuka's just catching cicadas and bugs that freak him out. And yeah, it's just, and then the three of them are together, but they didn't go back and check the damn pod to see that it was unearthed, because there are animals and other things that will dig that shit up, and it was only a matter of time. So TAKOPI says, I found out something shocking at Azuma-kun's house the other day. The fact that the wings don't work, so he can't fly to get Chappie. And Azuma's like, I wasn't planning on counting on them anyway. So he has this whole thing, like this, again, is an 8-hour drive. He's like, travel method, flappy wings are out. There's like boats. He's like, we'll take the ferry and the bullet train. Like, he's mapped all of this out to an insane degree for this 9-year-old to do that. I wouldn't have done this at 9 years old. Hell no. Like, he's figured out how much it's going to cost, everything. He's like, why are all your happy gadgets useless? I love, it's interesting seeing Azuma without the glasses. Like, that's always interesting. So the glasses, I'm assuming, were just to make himself look smarter, or he just got them to appear smarter as a front. He's like, why are they all useless? And Takapi's like, what are you talking about? It amazes me you came to Earth with nothing but junk. I don't know. A time-traveling camera is not junk. He's like, they're not just junk. He's like, we have lots of happy and cheerful gadgets on Planet Happy. Like a diorama of a Saturn dog. I don't know what that does. And he's like, also the big happy clock. Where an incredible gadget that lets you travel in time, wherever or whenever. And he's like, that would be amazingly useful. And I don't know if we're going to use that. That right there, I feel like this series is going to get as horrible as it can get. Which, we're at the halfway point. So I feel like next week is going to be terrifyingly bad. And I'm not looking forward to that. But I feel like everything is going to be horrible. And then somehow Takapi's going to get back to the Planet Happy and use the clock to go back before Marina was killed and stop this from happening. I don't know how, but I feel like that clock is going to let Takapi go back in time and prevent this all from happening. How that's going to happen, I don't know. I don't know. That's what we're watching the series for, right? I also like really the animation on Azuma's face during this conversation with Takapi. It's really good. And he's like, well, bring it here. It would fix everything that's happened. And he's like, he's shaking Takapi just like Chappie does. And he's like, well, I can't. Because he's like, I can't go back to Planet Happy. And he's like, I think we should take the bullet train to Tokyo. And she's like, okay. She's like, again, Azuma is taking this very seriously because Azuma knows the consequences of what's about to happen. I don't think Shizuka fully grasps it. She's like, let's just play. Let's just disassociate from all the stuff that's happening and just have a good time. It's so much fun when the three of us spend time together. Granted, they're 9. Shizuka is smiling. I wish we could always be like this. But now that I think about it, why can't I go back to Planet Happy? And yeah, so Takapi can't remember. Conveniently can't remember. So I guess we'll have to find that out later. We're going to find out he's been banished. And so then we cut back to Marina at the parents' house. And there's the thing. So you just chose not to show up at my mom's 60th birthday party. I don't blame her for not showing up. Yep. And she says, I already had plans. The homemaking class that makes you no money. I'm like, again, this dad is the worst. This dad is the worst. And the mom is bad too, but the dad, when he's like, why didn't you come to my mom's birthday party? And she's like, I already had plans. He's like, oh, that homemaking club that doesn't make you anything? I'm like, going to that birthday party doesn't make you anything either. So, and also, why would she want to go to that birthday party in front of your family when you abuse her and have to pretend like she's having a good time? You know, she's like, you're never home either since you're always at nightclubs. And then he says, well, I'm going out and drinking with my own money. He always goes back to that, like how it's his money and he can spend it how he wants to. Ugh. How can you just disrespect my parents like that? And I'm like, I don't blame her for not going. So then, of course, he gets Marina involved. And now it makes more sense why Marina was so distraught because her parents just used her like a damn like tug and pull. You know, they tried to twist it around. And he's like, well, you could go. He's like, all your mother does is complain. Like this, I hate that. I'm like, just get a divorce and get away from each other. Because they're just trying to pull their daughter in either direction. And he's like, you can come live with me. And of course, like, we already reached an agreement on custody. You don't even care about her. And Takapi misunderstands the situation and thinks that if she went with Marina's dad, it would make her closer to Chappie, which is in Tokyo, which is not the case. And she says she wants to go. And like, how awful the mom must feel in that moment. Granted, the mom has been abusing Marina. And so if you were logically thinking in that moment, you're like, well, it's because I've abused her that she's siding with the dad. But the mom doesn't see it that way. She doesn't view it that way. And it's just, everything in this situation is terrible. But honestly, the dad is the worst. He's the one that's the catalyst of all this. He's the one that is making these poor decisions. He's the one that's being verbally and physically abusive to the mom, which he's passing off to the daughter, which is still wrong. And the mom is in the wrong for doing that. But she probably wouldn't be doing that if the dad hadn't been abusive to her. So it's like, it's this stupid cycle that he is perpetuating and that she does in return. And then I'm glad the mom said, "You're not my daughter. Something's wrong with you." And honestly, because I think the moment where TAKOPI says, "Please don't," and like holds her hands up, is the moment the mom realizes it's not her daughter. Because Marina would have sat there and took it. Which is horrifying. And that's where we're left. Like, God. And the fact that TAKOPI is so scared and has all these emotions flood through them is just horrifying as well. I don't know who you are, but Marina is my precious daughter. I carried her and gave birth to her. Which I'm sure the mom feels all this guilt and shame because of how she's been hurting her. And so then that's when TAKOPI looks up and sees like the picture of them at the beach together. Like when she was younger. She's like, I haven't been a good mom, have I? The answer is no. But it's also really sad. And that's when TAKOPI realizes that Marina was a kid just like Shizuka. And she's like, I love you so much, so please come back to me. And that's like that's the horrible part about the cycle, is that the mom wants her daughter, but she warped that girl so much that I don't know if she could come back to it. And then you see her as a baby. She's like, Marina did terrible things to Shizuka. And you see like all the pictures of them as a kid. And that's when TAKOPI realizes that, but Marina was a kid just like Shizuka, who had parents at one time that loved each other. And then things just fell apart. Because you kind of see it. You see her as a little kid, like a baby, and everything's really good. Then you see her like as a 4 or 5-year-old, and you see like the dad, like the mom sitting there, like the mom and dad both have like video games, and they're playing there with the video games and like the guidebook, and like the daughter's playing alongside with them while he's like doing something that could be, you know, taxes, or could be just a job application or something. They're really young parents who had her really young when they were kids themselves, and they weren't ready for that responsibility. There, I said it, you know? And then, yeah, and he yells at her about the video game. And then we see her like making the cake and everything, and they're still like, everything seems to be going well because he's taking the picture with them, but then he gets a call. And the call is probably from Shizuka's mom, is probably what the phone call was. Again. And then we see the mom yelling at Marina because the dad's not there and taking it out on her. Again, goes back to the dad. Because the dad started all this by cheating on the mom. And then the fact that you end with that photo of the unicorn and the love and happy, and it says close knit. And then Marina's like, I'm so sorry. And that's in Marina's bedroom. Like, that's what Marina wants. She just wanted her family to stay together. Freaking heartbreaking. And then TAKOPI realizes that what he's done is take her away. He's like, I'm sorry. And when you get to her room, she's just a kid. Now granted, Marina's room You compare that with the room that Shizuka slept in, and they could not be further from each other. But they still were dealing with parents who just could not be adults and took it out on the kids instead. To go to show that it can happen to either side. It can happen to children in poverty. It can happen to children who are spoiled and have everything. It can happen to both sides. And I love when Takapi is looking, saying, I have to reflect, and they're grabbing the mirror as Marina. I have to reflect on what I've done, on what I could have done instead. Yep. And he's like, what should I do from here on out? Well, that is the question, because the pod with her body's been discovered. Takapi's like, I know I wanted to see Shizuka smile and I wanted her to be happy, but at the same time, I've killed this kid and taken this life. And let's talk with Shizuka again. Yeah. Because I feel like it says geological survey in progress. Oh my God. Oh my God. And yep. Oh my God. And then they found the body. Oh, that's what it was. Oh. Nope, not good. 'Tis bad. 'Tis bad indeed. I'm not looking forward to next week. On the one hand, I'm glad that Takapi has finally come to the realization of what they've done and how bad it is and the seriousness of this action, which is bad. But things are not good, friends. Things are not good. Things are not good at all. So I'm gonna need to be in the happiest mood ever to watch episode 4. I have it. I have a feeling the happiest mood ever. Dear God. So can't wait to hear your thoughts down below. So yeah, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, gonna have to be in the most happy form available to watch episode 4 of Takapi's Original Sin. And I'll see you all there. Bye.